Hi, and welcome to the Upzone, where understanding politics is made simple. We are your two hosts, Mr. Elmer Floyd, former House Representative for the 43rd District in the state of North Carolina, and myself,
Thank
Tisha
you.
S. Waddell, former City Council Representative for the 3rd District in the city of Fayetteville and current candidate for mayor in the very same city. Mr. Floyd, how are you today?
Let me ask you a question, and I'm doing okay, but is it possible for me to call Larry because I talked with you about my creditors, and you promised me that you were gonna call them, but they still keep calling,
Mr.
and
Floyd, they
and
said you don't owe them anything. When I called them, they say to me, he doesn't owe us anything.
well, Tish, you must be calling the wrong name. I tell you what I'm gonna do, Tish. You are a technical person. I'm gonna send you the numbers and see if the numbers compare with the numbers you've been calling.
I
But
got it. I'll wait for
I'm doing
those.
fine. Other than that, I'm doing
Outstanding.
fine. But
Outstanding.
uh, let me if I could do the announcements,
Well,
if you
before
don't.
you do the announcements,
Okay.
I do want to say to our audience that we are pre-recording today. So by the time you watch this, it is not live for us. It will be new for you. So we will not be responding in real time to your comments only because I have to go to a graduation for my godson who's graduating from basic training. So we thank you, Mr. Floyd, for accommodating my schedule in that. And that is why you guys will not see us responding in real time, but we will be getting on there to respond. Mr. Floyd, take it away. The announcement floor is yours.
Now you see how I've responded to you, but you haven't responded to my creditors. But anyway, the announcement, the announcement is the NAACP banquet is going to be this coming Saturday. So if you haven't, you can't pay for your tickets at the door. So just call. I think it's Miss Shirley Evans, and pay your money so that you can be there. Don't get mad, if you can't get in because they don't want to take money at the door.
Mhm.
And the next announcement that we have, Teach, is the Fayetteville State University is having their homecoming on October the 11th. Now, it's going to be the route has changed to downtown, and they're
Mhm.
going to start at Person Street and walk down Hayes Street. Now, I have made the other, lineup, but this one I found out the teacher's at 6 a.m. So I think I might just catch them, at 9 o'clock. If it's all right with you, I don't think I can make that 6 a.m. And
Yeah.
so, but the game gonna start at 11. It's 11 o'clock. I mean, the game start at 1:30, and the parade gonna start at 9. So let's go out and support the Fayetteville State University for their homecoming game. And remind you what I said, the Fayetteville State University. So
Yes, sir.
that is our announcement. But I got a question for you though, Chief.
Absolutely.
Now I saw a video last night of the well, I get confused. Y'all done had so many candidates formed, whatever, But two questions that I have. Uh, oh, one is there was some discussion. I'm not gonna go into it,
Mhm.
but some of y'all got upset about uh, uh, you know a topic that someone my understanding that was read. That's question one.
Yes.
And the question two, what's with these signs with y'all? They up, they down, they up, they
They're
down.
down.
I mean,
Right.
I
Do
mean,
you want me to
take
answer question one and question two, or are they rhetorical?
well, that's do the best you can because I'm a little bit few. I ride by one day, they down. I ride by the next day, they up. So
Right. So we at this as a candidate, you get a letter from the Board of Elections that tells you where your signs can go, when they can go, and how the dimensions of those signs. A lot of us do have people that put up signs on our behalf. And so I'm not going to pinpoint or blame anybody because I've had some signs come down also, but my team has now all been briefed and we're all aware that the large signs, so the big billboard size signs, they have to go on private property only. So if they're on any public piece of property, they're going to be taken up and they're taken to be disposed of. The smaller signs, there are also regulations that govern where they can go. Now, Mr. Floyd, when you come down to the end of MLK, that piece of land that sits right in front of your line of sight, I've always known that to be a place where there have been large signs and there have been small signs throughout the entire political process. This year, they are not playing that and they are taking those signs up. I have noticed, I went back by and I saw four of a candidate, one candidate only had four signs there. So I guess they said, forget the rules. I'm going to do what I want to do anyway. But we are trying to, my campaign is trying to adhere to the rules. But that's what's happening if you see the signs going up and coming down. And Mr.
Okay.
Floyd, interestingly enough, even on one of the pieces of private property that my campaign received permission to put a sign on, we got a call asking us to take it down because I think a candidate was a little pissed off about us having a sign in that position of dominance. But I'm gonna tell you what Mr. Robert Massey told me a long time ago, and you probably understand this. Mr. Massey said, signs don't vote, people do. And so while the signs are great and I really appreciate the effort that's going toward putting them out, my preference, Mr. Floyd, is to have signs on people's personal property because that's a demonstrator typically that they are going to vote for you and that they wish to influence other people to do the same. So I still put that out to the audience that I connect with. If you want to sign, just let us know. We've got a few more that we'd be happy to get out. Now, to your first question about the candidates forum, um, this was the first interface of mayoral candidates where we were asked questions. It was a little bit of a more relaxed
Okay. So
environment.
so you saying the other forms were just
Were
after?
districts. Those
Okay.
were districts. So there have been a lot of forums, but so
Okay.
far they've just been for the city council districts. This was the first of the mayoral forums. I think the next is on the 20th at Seabrook Auditorium, and that's going to be a mayoral candidate forum as well. And Mr. Floyd, yes, I did perceive that there was a question that was asked at one point that might have ruffled some feathers, and it was a question regarding my resignation. And the answer was very interesting, and I actually had another candidate sort of lean in on me and encourage me to rebut. And I just sort of leaned back and said, I don't have anything to prove, Mr. Floyd. I feel like City View today did an excellent job substantiating that these conversations were being had and that the chair of the board at that time was having these conversations outside of the purview of the council. I think that either that chairperson did not read the article or they wish to rewrite history where that article is concerned, because most certainly they continue to assert that my allegations were baseless when that's not the case. And they asserted that nothing ever came of it. And as you know, because you and I've talked about it, that also is not the case. So sometimes it takes a long time before you see movement on something, but we see all across the state of North Carolina where municipalities are being held to the fire for doing things that violate the North Carolina General Statute in terms of how they are supposed to be operating. So, we just sometimes we just have to wait and see what the end's gonna be.
Okay. Well, I just want to know, because sometimes I'm a little bit slow.
Yeah, me
So
too. Me too, Mr. Floyd. And I'm very appreciative. So it was the Friends of Haymount who hosted this forum. I'm very appreciative. I love the format. They made it very easy to participate in. We really got a choice as to what we wanted to answer, unless a question was directed to us. And I felt like, the people really connected with what we were talking about and were able to make a decision about who they wish to support in this upcoming election.
So was it more than 10 people there?
It was about 50 people there, 40 or 50 people there.
Because my understanding that someone about a dozen of eggs,
Absolutely.
was right.
Will feed the whole
Okay.
bunch.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And in many of them where you see the district candidates, there are many of them where the district candidates are not, some of the candidates are not even showing up. And one candidate in particular, who I'm not going to name, has not shown up at any of these forums. And I just wonder, Mr. Floyd, if that's them saying I got this, or if that's them saying I don't want this anymore.
Well, teach one thing, is that sometimes you wonder if you look at the forms itself, and if you look at the number of people in that organization, so they can get 100 to 200 people at the poll on the election day, then we will have a greater percentage than 7% of the voter population. So you wonder, are these forms really turning out voters, or
Right.
they form, or they form showing that I can say that I had a forum and I invited the candidates to come. But
Well,
anyway,
there
I
was one,
I just
Mr.
want.
Floyd. Let me say this very quickly before we shift topics. There was one forum that was hosted by it was a joint gathering of the Democrat and Republican Party, which is a unique. We don't usually see that. So they've been hosting joint forums, which again, the next one is on the 20th for the mayoral candidates, but they're having a good turnout in attendance because they're bringing out actual voters. They're bringing out their voter base. So when you see people ignoring these invitations, again, the question that it raises for me is, do you not want this, or do you just assume you got this? So,
Well, I'm
and
gonna
I
say
don't know
this
what
to
the
you.
answer to that is.
I'm gonna say this. This is flawed philosophy. Now, if you don't want to defend for yourself, how in the world are you going to get elected to an office and defend for me?
Absolutely.
Think about it now. If you're not going to be there for you, Lord knows
How
I
can
know
you
you're
be
not
there
going to
for
be there
me? How can
for
you show
me.
up for me?
So
Absolutely.
that's one of flawed philosophy, and the other philosophy is I don't pay you to discriminate against me.
Absolutely. And Mr. Floyd, that is why even
Hmm.
in the rooms where people traditionally feel like there's no value in them showing up, I still feel like they need to, because it is very
Oh yes,
discriminatory when you are seeking to represent a district or a city and you pick and choose who you show up to talk to. Yeah,
please
I
let
think
me
it's
say this. Let me say this. You can show up. You can ask me a question about a baseball. Okay, you can ask me the question about a baseball, but I may respond to you when I get the mic with a football answer. So it's not.
absolutely.
So what I'm saying, don't think that you can trick me with a question because I got the mic. It might not sound good, but I did respond. If you understand what I mean,
Absolutely.
because sometimes
Absolutely.
you ask a candidate a question and you leave more confused after he or she begin to respond to the question. What did he
And
say?
you know
Or
what I
what did she say?
noticed, Mr. Floyd? I noticed something a little different this campaign cycle. And I don't know if it's the people who are asking the questions are just fed up with these innovative answers, but I noticed that they will follow up and ask the candidate. They will remind the candidate of what the question was and say, "You never answered the question. I'm going to need you to answer
Thank
the
God.
question." Yeah,
Thank God.
that's what
Because
I
whew, 'cause
right.
some, I mean, some of them I leave, some of them I stop by Walgreens get me some aspirins because I be just as confused with a headache.
I
But
told my
anyway,
mother
Tish,
the same thing. I told her the same thing. And Floyd, I just want to tell you thank you. I want to publicly thank you because you've always challenged me to be succinct. And so I just want to thank you for that.
well, you're quite welcome. And as Shirley Caesar told her son, no charge.
No charge. Mr. Floyd,
When
let's
he
talk
started
about this.
complaining,
Yeah, she said 9 months I carried you.
that
No
kicked me,
charge. No
no
charge.
charge.
Yeah, let's talk about this shot spotter, Mr. Floyd, because this is a hot topic in our community right now, and it is really gaining a lot of traction in terms of the polarization of opinions. Mr. Floyd, what did we see happen at City Hall with shot spotter over the last few days?
Well, if you go back to, let's say, the consent agenda, the consent agenda was an indicator of how the vote was going to come out.
Hmm.
The same vote, 8-2, same vote, and that was based upon, even with a study, I think it was from one of the universities, and with another study, coming. The chief of police, which I said to you last week, I would be waiting to hear his response. He said the two together help prepare the police when they arrive on the scene. So I
Hmm.
guess that's what the city council did in that selection process. But this 200+ thousand dollars, I think it's gonna come out of general fund, I believe, this year.
And I listened to the meeting and I found something very interesting, Mr. Floyd, because I've always asserted that the juice is not worth the squeeze with Spot Shotter when you look at the cost in comparisons to the output. I also recognize that I'm not in law enforcement. And
Mhm.
the more I sit back and think about this conversation, I think that one of the things that Chief Bryan said was it was very impactful if people really heard him. One of the council members asked Chief Bryan, "Is there anything about this technology that you don't agree with, or that like you think is a downside?" And Chief Bryan answered that it has become politicized. And I want to echo that sentiment because, Mr. Floyd, the truth of the matter is nobody on that board has law enforcement experience that I am aware of. With that being the case, we can speak to and this is, remember, we exist to make understanding politics simple. And because making understanding politics simple means explain the process, let's talk through that. The governing body is there to create policy and to direct the budget, right?
Mhm.
That's primarily their responsibility, to create policy and to direct the budget. When you start having council members get in the weeds regarding the deployment of technology for the police department or any other department for that matter, is the city council operating it within their purview? Because that becomes now you can ask questions and do all the things, but when you are trying to manipulate either way the direction of your police chief's responses in terms of the technology that they're asking for you to fund, are you stepping outside of your purview? Are you moving into the lane of trying to direct the city manager staff? Do you think that's what? How do you see that, Mr. Floyd?
Well, well, I see. I mean, it's a role that you play because you must make a decision, as a elected person, either left or right, and based on the information that you receive in order to
Hmm.
make a sound decision, whether it's a good decision, of a bad decision. That's a decision that you have to live with going forward.
So
So,
if your chief of police is coming to you and saying that this is a tool that they find valuable and they wish to have this tool deployed for their officers, do you do you then weigh that into your decision, or do you stand on your position that you feel that your interpretation of the information does not support that?
well, I mean, that's why you hire people, okay, to provide you the information, someone that will help you make a sound decision. So,
Hmm.
if you believe that that information that is provided to you is not sufficient enough, then you vote against it. Then, if
Right.
you think it's sufficient enough, then you vote for it. I mean, because
Does it have to
you,
become such a political topic? Because it feels like this has become almost a it's become a division, another division point in our community. So
well,
do you believe
pro-
that this council is playing political games with this technology?
every issue that's coming for a political body is like that.
Okay.
Doesn't matter, whatever issue it is, it's going to be like that. So it's a lot of times, always, well, it's a political issue, and that's what you have to do, is to make a sound decision based upon the information that you have received and the information that you have found. Two different
Mhm.
things. And then you
Mhm.
make that decision. You have to live it. Although you have community members saying that we should use that 200 plus $1,000 for something else. Well, when I looked at my taxes, and I saw that increase in my tax, there's a lot of money that you can use for something else. So not just this 200 and some more $1,000, but it seems to me that you all did pretty good with your revenue neutral plus six. So you have some money to
You
do something
stop
else
putting me
with.
in that, Mr. Floyd, because I did not make that decision. Don't you
Well,
have
I'm
these
just
people
saying.
thinking that I had something to do with that?
Well, you said revenue neutral plus six, so you have a lot of money to do a lot of things. So, uh, you know, that's a done deal. There, get the city to appropriate another 600,000. I mean, another $200,000 to look at those issues that you were talking about. I mean, it's a done deal now
Right.
for you.
I just think procedurally the question arises for me because the question still stands, Mr. Floyd. Are we, if one of the things that we're talking about is public safety, when we essentially cut the kneecaps off of the chief of police? Are we demonstrating to our chief of police that we are invested in the solutions that he brings forward to bolster public safety?
Well,
Or are we saying that we think we know best and we want you to do what we tell you to do?
well, that's why one of the committees that I served on, in the General Assembly, is that what the public probably didn't see and didn't understand of why we're talking about body cams. Okay, and it was somewhat difficult and unique to get those person who were in law enforcement to make certain changes so that the public can have access to it, because that was their expertise. I mean,
Hmm.
they thought that if they allow too much information, it may hurt that law enforcement officer. At the same time, you may provide information about that law enforcement personnel as it relates to his or her personnel matter. I mean, issues or matters or
Hmm.
whatever. So you had to be very careful about how you make these decisions, because in the General Assembly, normally people that have the background experience chair these committees.
Hmm.
Okay, if if it's a medical, like health and human service, somebody on that committee is going to have a medical degree,
Hmm.
you know, because he or she has that expertise. So you have to rely on that. Not to say that it's good, but you know, I'm not an expert on it.
Right.
It's just like in church. I'm not. I'm simply a little old trustee. I can tell you about the dollars, but I
Right.
can't tell you. I mean, I'm not that gifted as it relates to the deacon role. You
And
know,
Mr. Floyd, the
I
truth
can't
of
get up
the
and.
matter is when we talk about statistics, statistics can support both sides of a conversation
Yeah.
because numbers can be utilized to defend or debunk just about anything. So statistics, while they may appear very relevant, they can be used on both sides of the coin. So I feel like this is one of those instances where even though, and I'm very clear about how I personally feel about Spot Shiner, if your police chief is standing before you, the police chief that has been duly appointed by your city manager, you have to ask yourself this question as a policy body. Is what's coming forward from your police chief consistent with the policy that you've set with with your city manager? And if not, that conversation should be had with your city manager. But you have to also remember, Mr. Floyd, that we are seemingly turning over police chiefs at a rapid rate. And so I asked this question, and I call it rapid. Others may think that it's consistent and makes sense. But I asked the question, could these types of reasons potentially be why? Because we're governing. I had a conversation today, separate side note. I had a conversation today in a meeting that I was a part of that pointed to the inefficiencies at City Hall where somebody can just link with the chair of the board of the council, and that shifts the trajectory of the workload because they'll send an email to a staff person and it changes things. And Mr. Floyd, the question that raises for me is, are we consistently working against the North Carolina General Statute to the detriment of our community? Because when you see that, people will wash their hands of working with you when they realize that you're going to micromanage every bit of what they do.
Well, Tish, I tell you, that's when when what we have to understand, and many times elected officials want to get in and sort of, like what you just mentioned, micromanage. Okay, but the the council, we talked about this in past. The council only employ two people. That's all. That's the city attorney and the city manager. The other city council person, I mean, the other legal person, are responsible to the city attorney. And
Right.
I believe the
And the
city
rest of the
manager,
staff belongs to the city manager. They
yeah,
report to him.
that report
Right.
to him.
I just think
That's
there's an imbalance in how we're working as a city. Mr. Floyd, so let's talk about while we're talking about imbalance, let's talk about development in front of the courthouse. What are we hearing? What is being said?
What, what we mentioned last week, I'm sorry, the county commissioner want to get from the community what to do with that land use. I think they will make that decision after they look at the $10 million that they may have to pay. You know, whether to do green space, and I sometimes wonder about when we talk about green space, but yet when we do zoning, we let the developer build as many houses that he or she can on that vacant land, and we don't
Mr.
look at
Floyd,
green
Mr.
space.
Floyd, now we are not, I think that the Realtors Association and the Home Builders Association came forward at the last city council meeting, and they made it abundantly clear that they are contributors to this economy and are worthy of the respect of this community. And I do not disagree with that. So I need for you to clarify what you mean when you say that the builders are given carte blanche to do what they want to do. Explain
No,
that,
no,
Mr. Floyd.
no. I didn't say that. I said that when we look at building, okay, when they come before us with a zoning request change, that you can convey to them, can we set aside some land for green space? Okay, can you do that? Because we're talking about we want to have a healthy community. Now,
Right.
if you build it and use the maximum use of the land, well, hypothetically, uh, like many communities don't have sidewalks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when they want to walk into the community, walk the dog, walk the children, they have to walk in the streets.
Well,
So
and this is
part of
something
that,
that was brought up at the forum last night, Mr. Floyd, was that even with our bus routes, if you go to the the transfer location, which is the mall, there's no crosswalk that will take you across the street of Skybow. So these are the
Mhm.
things that are coming up in conversation, and these are our real stress points. But Mr. Floyd, finish because I want to make sure
Yeah.
that our audience and I understand.
Okay, so what I'm saying, you can, if you build sidewalks,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that will give the community an opportunity to walk within their community. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so if you set aside just a little space, wherein that if I walk out of my house or with my child, that we can walk to a certain spot, in the community, and we can have a family chat. We can have, there's a breeze coming. So what I'm simply saying is that you can encourage the developer to leave some green space. I'm not saying establish it in an audience, you know, but you can ask them, could you do this? Because if not, then the city is later going to have to provide these amenities.
But Mr. Floyd,
That's
why, as the policymakers, if that's your interest and that's the direction you wish to see your city go, why wouldn't you establish an ordinance that had that requirement? What would be some
what
reasons that that would not happen?
because, as you just mentioned, the developer plays a large role in local elections. They play a large role in local elections, and
And what
so
do politicians always hear from developers when it comes to development in Fayetteville and the standards that we have put forward? Because the UDO is being picked apart. And why is that, Mr. Floyd? Because they say we
well,
make it too expensive and too difficult to build, that our
yeah,
standards make it too expensive and too difficult to build. So the balancing act is we either have to comply with these builders who say we make it too expensive and too difficult to build, and then we end up with a reduction in the green spaces, a reduction in the sidewalks, a reduction in the stormwater control measures, or we have to do what the community is saying they want done, which is require these developments to have some component of that through our ordinances. And here's where the battle comes in. And so when you have elected officials stand up and not address that and tell the truth about that, they're being disingenuous. And it's not an attack on the home builders or the realtors. It's just standing up saying these are the two choices we have.
well, when you look at it, and we're talking about green space, that's one. But we're allowing the builders to build, which is good. That is
Absolutely.
beautiful because they create jobs and provide homes. But
And
at
what
the
they said
same
is for
time,
every 100 homes, this is what they said in the meeting. The realtor said for every 100 homes that are built, that is 3 jobs created.
yes, but
300. So 3 per house. 300 jobs are created for every 100 homes built. So for every one home, that's 3 jobs created, Mr. Floyd.
well, I look at that from one particular perspective, but at the same time, this is not moving away. We're allowing developers to build. That's
Hmm.
which is good. But we are using the same infrastructure to remove the water. The same is going into that same small creek or stream. So, not only do we have to look at that, we have to figure out, and I think won't happen during my lifetime, but I think that as the city continue to grow and the developer continue to build, they are going to have to look at taking the existing structure and start developing canals so that it can move the water much quicker from our neighborhood. So
Hmm.
so that's one area. And they looked at, should we do some type of economic development? They're looking at some type of economic development for that space there. And also they said, they were looking at the parking issue that's around there. So but the survey, if the people want to look at the survey, respond to the survey, help the
Absolutely.
county make a decision about how to utilize that. Because I said to you long ago that the footprint for that location for the civic center was just too small.
Absolutely.
So respond
But
to
you're
it. I mean, give your pros and cons.
absolutely. And you're talking about economic development. And you know that one of the factors surrounding economic development and the types of private partnerships that the city may court to come in and assist with this economic development are contingent upon quality of life issues. And we saw in the paper yesterday that one of the quality of life issues that we've talked about frequently on this podcast and that our community recognizes as an issue is the performance of our schools. So, Mr. Floyd, what did we see coming out in regards to the performance of our schools?
Geez, we have 86 schools here
Hmm.
in Cumberland County. And looking at the survey, it was sort of mixed that we have about 27 that need improvement.
Yeah,
So
they're
this,
considered low
so,
performance. Hmm.
yeah. So we need to really, the superintendent, the new superintendent has a job in which to do. And he has proven in other areas that he can improve the performance of the low performing schools. I
And Mr.
wish
Floyd,
that.
I continue to assert that he's going to need the help of all of us.
Oh yeah,
It's
I
not going
mean,
to just fall on the schools. Hmm.
well, and that's the concern. Also, the parents has a responsibility because the school system only have them for about 6 to 8 hours a day. You have a responsibility, as a parent, to assist in the education and instruction of that child. You know, the child needs guidance 24/7, and you make it difficult. The teacher teaches from whatever time, and nowadays, you don't see kids with books. You see them with backpacks, and many don't have laptops in the backpack. So,
Hmm.
but I just believe that if you change the selection and the assignment of teachers from site based to central based, meaning that if a math teacher is needed at Smith, is that once that individual apply for a position, he or she goes to that school where the vacancy occur. It's not like, I mean, like most individuals teach, they look at which schools are good quality schools, and that's
Hmm.
where they want to go.
Absolutely.
So they go and interview at that particular school, and if that particular school don't accept them, then they just don't go. But
Right.
if it was central based and you understand that where they're opening that, that's where you go, and you would see, to me, a shift in the learning process of that. All teachers are good.
Hmm.
I know people say they are bad teachers, but look at what you do as a parent. I mean,
Absolutely.
if you're not putting in any time with the child, so why are you gonna say the teacher is a bad teacher
And
when
you
the
and when the
yeah,
kid needs parenting also. And Mr. Floyd,
yeah,
this ties back to so many of the issues that we've been talking about. This even ties into Spot Shotter because crime is directly affected when you have low performing schools. You have high crime rates in communities
mhm, that's true.
because people who are undereducated don't have the same opportunities as people who receive a quality education. And typically, and again, this does not all fall on the teachers and administrators of the school, because when you have, and I've been talking about this, Floyd, when you have single parent households that are trying to make it for their children, and you have a community that's paying below national and below state wages, you have a struggling person trying to take care of their family, which means they're working two, sometimes three jobs in order to be able to do
Yes,
so, which leaves very little time for supervising their children. And not because they don't want to, but because they simply don't have the capacity in terms of time to do so. And so when kids are left to their own devices, they don't always perform well in school, and sometimes they end up in trouble. And so we have to take a more active role in increasing the Floyd. It's like all of these things go hand in hand together. And when we're in these forums, you see people standing up saying what they would do, and it doesn't take into consideration all of the other pieces that go with this puzzle. And I'm so sick of hearing our mayor stand up and talk about how he has facilitated these relationships, and they're having these joint meetings, and they're doing this and they're doing that, because the reality is this is not new. We've been hearing
mm,
about collaboration. We were told in the last election cycle, Floyd, that the city and the county got along. You remember that?
I heard
We
it.
were told by a candidate that the city and the county got along, that they did not have disagreements, and they worked well together.
Do you
Now
have
we're
some?
being told that. Go ahead.
You have a call center?
Listen, Mr. Floyd, not only the 911 call center, but also now we're being told by members of this council that the reason that our property taxes had to be increased by the plus six, revenue neutral plus six, is because the county changed their method by which they funded the city with the food and beverage tax and the hotel occupancy tax or something of that matter. So here's the crazy part. They knew that was coming. So you mean to tell me you knew all this time that was coming, and instead of you planning and preparing accordingly, you waited until the last minute and plus sixed us at the same time that the county did their property revaluations. It's just it's this is poor planning, poor preparation, and you cannot keep standing up in our face telling us that you've been doing such a great job when you haven't been. You haven't
Well,
been. And you haven't done horribly. We're not busting you over the head, but you don't get to say, "Give me more time to do what I haven't done," when you've had plenty of time.
one thing that we have to do, and I'll say this to you, and I'll say this to anybody: please, please, don't compare me with Charlotte, Raleigh, Durham, and Greensboro. There's
Because
a
we are there.
tremendous, there's a tremendous economic gap between income between those areas. So I mean, I can't. I mean, for his jobs in Raleigh, you talk about $98,000. You talking about Fayetteville, you're talking about 46. So I can't be the same as Raleigh.
That's
So
right.
let compare me with Rocky Mount, Greenville, Winston Salem, some. See, but you always want to compare me with a larger city that has more infrastructure and have more business and have a long range vision like Guilford County and Randolph County as an instance up that way. With
Hmm.
this, I think this V battery plant that they are building, they came together and developed what you call a 118 acre mega site.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mega site
Collaboration.
together.
Collaboration.
And when you look at it, I think that I forgot the number of jobs that's going to be employed in this mega site. But what you also have to look at is that come this mega site, the industries are going to come closer to this mega site to provide the resources.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there go more jobs. So
And you
the
know, Mr.
current,
Floyd, if we had housing of like if we had a really great housing market, you would see people living in Fayetteville and potentially working in other places if our housing market was different than what it's like now.
well,
Because
teach
housing attracts people to live in the housing. And I'm not talking
when
about
we
low income housing. I'm talking about
that's
good,
what
good.
that's what we heard, teach. I mean, every time we start talking about a housing a complex, or we talk about what the builders want to be, or the first thing that we talk about, are they going to be low income housing?
Yeah,
Or
that's
when
not
they
what I'm
say
talking about.
affordable houses, there's two different things. Affordable houses, and you're talking about low income houses, but they always twist it to be for low income residents. Nothing wrong with that.
Hmm.
There is a market for that. There is a market for that. And it seems like we don't want I think Durham had taken a lot of steps to provide housing, balanced housing. So,
Hmm.
but us, that's the first thing that we mentioned. Is it for low income?
Low income,
And
absolutely.
and then there's no such thing, and I say this, I'm not being redundant. There's no such thing as affordable housing.
You need to be able to afford the housing.
Yeah, there ain't no such thing as affordable
Exactly.
housing.
Exactly. You
Because
need to be able
you
to
can
afford
be
the
a
housing, and that means access to opportunity.
yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, you can be a housing chief. You can be a housing today for any group of people.
Hmm.
But do they have the income and the resources to do one thing, chief? To maintain.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Mr. Floyd. Now, speaking of maintaining, what happened at the MLK meeting, sir?
Tish, I tell you what, I attended that meeting last night, and I stopped by Walgreens and I stopped by Walmart, and I got aspirin at both of those places
What happened,
because
sir?
that meeting, and I stood there, and before I spoke, and I was listening at the people who are providing and who are members, and they were saying that there is one God. He controlled everything. Okay. He
Okay.
he controlled the checkbook. Okay. He writes the checks. He deposit the money.
I didn't know where
And
you were
he
going with that. I'm with you now. So you were saying that
okay.
basically said there was one centralized person who was running the
Who
whole
does
show.
the whole show. The
Okay.
whole show.
That's
And
problematic.
he does not provide, other words, you have a person who is the president of the committee. Two
Hmm.
different things, the board, and then you have the committee. That person don't have access to nothing. She doesn't deposit any money. She doesn't have access to the mailbox where the information comes in. That she doesn't see the checks that is being spent for the committees in which she supervised. Then you have a lady who is the financial secretary that's supposed to be the secretary that sign checks. Now remember that sign checks, but don't see the invoice. And then on top of that, one person was said that if you want to find out anything about the expenditure, you contact the CPA. So the person contact the CPA and he receives a letter say you impersonating a board member. And I'm gonna carry you to the board to get you off the committee. Well, he received an email saying that if you want to find out anything about the
Ask them.
expenditure, ask them.
Ask them.
And so he asked me that question, and I said, Tish, Why should I go and see the CPA when the CPA perform a task for the organization? Once that task is completed, he provided to the organization. So why should I go to the CPA?
Right.
Oh, it
And
was a.
you've asserted that all along, Mr. Floyd. That's been your position all along.
I
So this
mean,
meeting was a debacle.
woof, Lord have mercy, it was worse than that. I mean, they are sitting in position and has absolutely no authority to carry out their, their work. And every time I go to the website, I get me an aspirin because it's changed. I mean, the memberships and the leadership role changed. One person said last night that she was on the board of directors. So I go to the website today. I didn't see her name.
Wow.
Okay. I go to the website, the person that say that she is the second that was appointed the treasurer. I mean, at some point in time, that body got to the board of directors need to step into and assume their role and responsibility and not let one person deposit, spend, and write.
Right.
They have a responsibility. And if anything haven't going forward, that role that some play, I didn't know. You cannot play ignorant to the fact when it say that this is what your role is in the organization. And
Absolutely.
the first thing that I would say to any person that comes involved into an organization, the first thing that you should do is get a copy of the insurance policy to see if
You
that
told me
particular
that.
to see if that board is bonded.
You told me
Okay,
that. And I as
I
soon
want to
as you
see
told
that.
me, I went and checked.
Okay, I want to see if that board is bonded because what's going to happen if somebody is sued, Madam Waddell?
They can go directly after the board.
Yeah, you as an
Hmm.
individual and drop all
After
the
your
other
assets.
14.
That's
Yeah,
right.
and
That's
drop
right.
the other 14 and just go after you.
That's
So
right.
there's a lot of work to be done, but the board has November 1 to respond to the county because the county gave them a 1 year extension. And
Okay.
there's an auditor
And that's right around
request.
the corner. That's right around the corner.
Yeah, and there's an
Hmm.
auditor request. It is that they want to look at how the state fund has been spent. Nobody knows, Teach. Nobody knows.
Dave Bullock has been very busy auditing different
Yes.
municipalities. And it's my understanding that he is probably going to be making an appearance here in the city of Fayetteville. So I'm interested to see how that's going to turn out. Now, Mr. Floyd, the last topic that we have on our agenda for today is the enrollment rates as they stand at FTCC and FSU. What do you know about the enrollment rates at those two
Growth,
places?
growth, growth, growth. Because they are providing programs that meet those students' need. And
Absolutely.
the retention rate and even the GPA scores have increased. So they're
Absolutely.
getting a better caliber of student, which will increase the retention rate. What people don't know, when Fayetteville State increased their student enrollment by 700, that means that their funding next year will be greater, and they will be able to allow them to do two things. And as we close, to our community fought the North Carolina Promise, which is 50, which is $500 per semester, which equals a
Mm-hmm.
thousand and $2,500 for out of state students to
Right.
come to your university. So bringing in those students, instead of paying a greater for out of state students, they only pay $2,500. So you
Mm-hmm.
get the brighter students to come in there. So Fayetteville State is growing by leaps and bounds,
And
and you
bounds.
go by there and you see more steel going up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The majority of the work that is happening on Murchison Road is taking place at Fayetteville State University. Mr. Floyd, so you also mentioned that the parade route was going to be changing. I want to say something. I was on Murchison Road today, um, in the plaza, and while I was in the plaza, I went to go and see my. I've been adopted as a sister. I went to go and see my adopted sister, to make a purchase from her. And when I went in, we were talking. I heard the band playing, and the vibrancy in that area. There's just been a shift. There's really been a shift. It's very collegiate. It's a bit more upscale than some collegiate areas that I've been in. There's just a real shift. You've got the Chamber of Commerce there now. You've got the business hub there. You've got other little businesses in the area, a Chick-fil-A, you've got a McAllister's. You've just got all this concentrated growth. You've got the senior center, all this growth going on in the area. Why would they change the parade route now? Whose direction was that given by?
The community, and talking with many members of the community, they don't know. And
Okay.
and I talked with my friend Troy Williams today, and he said that he was trying to get someone to come on the local radio station to explain why the route has been shifted from Murchison Road to downtown Fayetteville. It's sort of like like you having a tailgate. You have the tailgate, downtown, and the game at Fayetteville State. As the boys on the street say, that mathing is not mathing.
It's not mathing. Yeah.
It's not mathing,
Well, I hope somebody will give us an answer. I don't know if it was the chancellor or if it was a member of his staff or if it was somebody from the city who said we have to redirect traffic. I don't know. And I know that there's work
Mm.
going on, in of when you get up near Langdon Street, but I don't know if that would have been if that's going to take so long that that's why they've done it. I'd love to hear more
Well,
about why
Tish,
they made that decision.
and in closing, I don't want to contradict you or get you upset, but during the holidays, what they say about traffic, we have stopped all traffic, road construction traffic, uh, until the holiday is
The
over with.
holidays, absolutely.
So it's no problem with the contractor not working on that Saturday. Okay,
Right,
it,
right.
it's just it's just a notice to the contractor, just like with the Department of Transportation, that we will not, well in advance, that we will
Hmm.
not have any work done on this day. It's very simple. As
Hmm.
with the closing
So
of
what
the
I hear you saying is it's possible to not not have that happen.
yeah,
It's
I mean,
possible
so
to make available that space so that people can
yeah,
still
yeah.
okay, I understand what you're saying. Well, Mr. Floyd,
So,
let me
so
ask you this. What you want to leave our people with today?
still my dog, Tish. My dog. If he bring it, he'll carry it.
Yeah. And I'm still stuck on righteousness. And Mr. Floyd,
Oh,
I just feel
Tish,
compelled. Yes, go ahead.
Tish, we forgot to put up the election
Yes, we
schedule.
did. And I forgot
Please
to
do that.
tell people about my event this weekend. So before I put up the
Okay.
election schedule, I want to remind everybody that I am having an event. It is called Praise is Greater Than Politics. It is not a rally. There will be no fundraising. There will be no campaigning, no direct campaigning, and there will be no stump speeches. So come on out, join with the body of Christ to have a good time praising the Lord and to be encouraged to remember what our role is as believers in governance. So come on out, make sure you're there Saturday, September the 13th from 2 to 4 p.m. at 5315 Morganton Road. Again, Saturday, September the 13th, 2 to 4 p.m. at 5315 Morganton Road. And Mr. Floyd, I'm so grateful for a phone call that I got yesterday because I was preparing to staff 3 polling locations during primary early voting until I got a phone call asking me, did I want somebody to come and work polls for me? Did I want to hire some poll workers? And they mentioned that it was just 1 poll location. And I was like, that's not the case. There's 3. Well, let's clarify this. There is 1 poll location for early voting during the primary. And that is going to be at 227 Fountainhead Lane, the Board of Elections. This is the schedule for that. It's going to run from the 18th through October the 4th. And here's the schedule right here. Now, for the general election for early voting, there will be 3 locations. You will have the Cliffdale Recreation Center, You will have the Board of Elections office at 227 Fountainhead Lane. Cliffdale Rec is at 6404 Cliffdale Road. And then you will have the Kiwanis Rec Center at 352 Devers Street. So in the general election, there will be three early voting polling locations open. In the primary, one location, Board of Elections, Fountainhead Lane.
Thank you so much, because I had
My
forgot
pleasure.
about it, and it's critical there. And
It is
my
critical.
dog did carry it.
Absolutely. And listen, that's how it came to me too. And Mr. Floyd, I'll say this. I do want to make a notation. When I say that righteousness, that you cannot have justice apart from righteousness, be very clear that does not mean self-righteousness. I'm not talking about self-righteousness. I'm talking about the foundation of Christ's righteousness. You will never have justice apart from that. So if you want justice, seek out righteousness. Mr. Floyd, I hope that people will like. I hope that they will share. I hope that they will subscribe. And I hope that they will follow. I look forward to them telling a friend to tell a friend. Do you have anything else you want to say before I tell them that we'll catch them on the next episode?
Please, the primary is one, the general election is two. If you vote in the primary, you will still have to vote in the general election. So don't get them confused.
That's correct. And I am your choice for Mayor Tisha S. Waddell. Do not forget that. Do not forget that. And we'll catch you on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in.